The following views and opinions are based on my time and experience as community coordinator at Wargaming North America for World Warships. Information and opinions may have changed since this video was recorded. No NDA information is contained within this video. When I say it's balanced by ship-to-ship comparisons, so it's going to be compared to other DDs going forward. So you don't want to make it a clone of something else. You want to kind of distinguish it a little bit, but you want its performance parameters to be either kind of across the board similar, or excelling in one area and not excelling in another area. And you can't find that until you test it. People harping on about, oh, the ship is crap. You know, they shouldn't be even testing this, yada yada. It's like, just let it go through testing. 9 times out of 10, it's caught in early testing that it's crap. And it gets changed. You can't balance one set of ships for randoms, and you can't balance another set of ships for clan battles. You could be actually referring to how clan battles is in terms of the actual configuration in terms of ship limits, ship types, tiering, that sort of thing. Again, you can't listen to your tops and you can't listen to the bottoms. You got to make it fun for everyone. If you set the bar too high, you're not going to get your people who want to give it a go to do it, because the criteria for entry is going to be too high. And then as people start churning out of the mode because burnout, whatever, you're going to have no one to replace them. So that's why you do have to make sure that the ceiling for entry isn't too high. Nope. Hey, not wargaming. Don't come after me, man. I'm giving you the frank and factual stream of me being a dick today because I'm in a mood to be a dick, okay? Smolensk is easy to play, but it's also easy to get smacked the crap out in. Smolensk is maybe a tad before its time. I've never seen it as being like a stupidly great ship, a stupidly fun ship. It's just a pre-nerf conqueror. That spams a little faster. I feel like I've addressed this one in terms of you balance for ship's potential so that you're trying to get everything within a relative range of each other. You can't balance for the top 10. You can't balance for the average. You just have to balance in comparison to one another. Considering that probably the amount of games you have to play to get through those missions originally to get the unique upgrade. So 5 lines to get you the research bureau unlocked, you get 10,000 points immediately. First line, you get a double reset. You know, you can get your first 5 ships worth of regrinds by doing that regrind once. It's actually easier to get the unique upgrades by doing the regrinds than what it was doing the missions, because the missions dragged on. I'm gonna be really, really frank here, and you guys are probably all gonna tune off. I never 100% understood what IFHE did. It was the one thing that no matter how many times Cammy explained it to me, I did not understand it. I think the fact now that it's not needed as standard on a lot of ships is better, but again, I don't think I understand it. I don't know. Again, I can't talk about anything I know they're considering under NDA premises, but that one I don't actually know. Balance is not a stationary object. They are always considering, you know, do ships need tweaks? Do things need buffing? Do things need reducing? Stuff like that. Specifics on what they are actually considering, I don't know. Look, I don't know why they did that. There was probably some balance issues with what the NACCs proposed. There was going to be things that needed tweaking, but completely turning it on its head is weird. I don't necessarily understand why. My thought is maybe they really liked the design concept of what the NACCs came up with during CC Summit. There's only 2 lines I know of that are still set to be released that I knew just based off development beforehand. After that point, I won't know any upcoming content. I'm already don't know a lot more. There's only a few things left I know that still haven't been released. I mean, one thing that's nice to see is that, you know, the exhaust smoke, which was a brainchild of the NACCs, you know, lives to tell another day. I think that's kind of cool. Yeah, I don't understand that gimmicky ship. I don't get it. Because no one wants 150 plus American ships just for the sake of having American ships in the game. You need to have balance across ship types, ship nations, otherwise you're gonna negatively impact your game economy. Yes, everyone wants their favorite historical ship. You also have to consider the fact is usually, like, the Italian Navy is a great example. It's not as simple as being like Google, you know, building documents for alpha ship. It's not that simple to get what you need to actually build and develop these ships. And also when you consider commercial use of it, because ultimately this is a commercial game, you also have, particularly when it's IP from a country, nation, yada yada, you also have to have that country's approvals, which is not as always easy to get through. Also why you see, you know, there has been that, hey, there's a lot of Russian ships and paper ships because you don't have to get anyone's approvals for those. Ultimately, like, I get it. If you have connections to the Tennessee, to the freaking Pennsylvania, good for you. Like, having that connection to history is awesome, but the game isn't gonna sit on its hands and wait to get approvals to use certain things when it can be developing other stuff. I do and don't agree with that, because ultimately it's historic based, but at a certain point you have to make concessions for gameplay ability and progress of the game. I'm kind of 50-50 on that point. So you can't balance for your top 10%. If you nerf a ship so that in the top 10% of players' hands it is average, then you're actually going to end up drooping the stats more because, you know, the other 90% of the players aren't going to be able to play that ship viably. And then you end up tanking the stats, which then means you have to buff it back up to where it should have been in the first place. That is why you can't balance to the top 10%. So when you first unlock the Research Bureau, you do get 10,000 points, which I think is almost enough. It's hard to say. Before the unique upgrades were reworked, it was rough because certain ships needed that unique upgrade. Otherwise, they just weren't viable without it. And now that they have been a little bit more balanced out, I don't think it's going to be as critical. But for the ships that like their unique upgrade is kind of like mandatory, it is a bit rough. So while a universal AA buff works great for ships on an individual level, you do need to be mindful about the compounding impact that has, and making sure that that is not too strong, so that when ships do group, you know, the CV still needs to be able to do something. Whatever that something looks like, they need to be able to do it. If you're going to buff AA, you need to be reducing the compounding effect of overlapping AA a little bit. You balance for the average, you balance for the health of the game. So you make the ship viable in comparison to other ships. And that's how you achieve balance, is you look at ships in comparison to one another. You don't want one ship being the top of every category. You balance the potential of the ships against one another is how you achieve balance. Or how you get better balance. Nope. Cheap mentality, maybe? So I feel like that originally came from the Stalingrad and the Kremlin when it was first released. So I think perception-wise, that came initially from Stalingrad. So Stalingrad was the first steel ship to be released. And obviously still being a quote-unquote competitive currency, a lot of the players who received Stalingrad early on were your higher tier, your better tier players. And because of that, a ship being in the hands of the people who knew how to play ships very well pushed the stats of that very high. It was then exaggerated by the fact that the Kremlin came out, which on release, the Kremlin, or even in testing, I think the Kremlin was a little bit kind of strong. We'll say it. Which then consequently made that worse and worse and worse. And then people kind of just got in the mentality that, you know, all Russian ships were OP. Exaggerated once more with the Smolensk, which honestly, had the Smolensk been released way earlier or way later, I don't think it would have had the same sort of impact. But since, you know, you had two previous Russian ships in a row at tier 10 or kind of close together being quite strong, people got a bad taste in their mouth, you know? Because shells can't. I don't know what the design decision was. Off the top of my head, I don't know. It's probably also something to do with what can actually be achieved within the game coding in terms of having those block points. Those would just be my guesses if I had to. Because players don't know how to interpret data a lot of the time, and they would come to the wrong conclusions.